Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're gonna talk about the what and why of code minification. So, what is basically minified code? Why do you minify code? So, here's basically our YouTube, and if I take a look at its source, I see a bunch of files which look pretty cryptic and huge. Like, somebody won't write code in this way. I think nobody would write code in this way. So this is basically what you call code minification, as evident from here, which means minified file, which even Chrome recognizes it as minified code. So what basically minified code is, you take code which is written by you and then pass it through a minification process. What that minification process really does is it takes that code, it removes all the white spaces, it kind of converts certain variables into alphabets. Like you can see variables like being passed to this function L, like A, B, C. So these aren't variables which were defined by the user, but these are after the code has been run through the minification process. And there is a twofold advantage of passing the code through a minifier. So before I tell you the first advantage of how to minify code, we have to go back to how basically a site is rendered onto your web page. Whenever you hit an address to a website, it goes through a DNS to the proxy, and the request kind of finds its way through the internet to the nearest YouTube server, and the YouTube server then returns you basically the resources which are needed for the web page to render in your browser. So basically it returns JavaScript, CSS and HTML. So this bundle kind of finds its way back to your local machine, and the browsers try to make sense of these three things, and using their engines, using their rendering engines and parsing engines, they form a structure, they form a DOM, they apply those styles which were returned by the server, finally execute scripts, that is basically JavaScript, so that you can add interactivity on your web page. So this is basically how a web page is requested and then rendered into your browser. So this is at a very high level. There are a lot many things happening inside your browser and in the network, which I won't go into. But the part that I want you to really understand is, you are basically downloading CSS, JS and HTML into your browser, and the browser then handles the rest of the part. But you have to download it first on the network. Most people, what they basically want is, or most organizations want their websites or their web apps to load very, very fast or very, very quick. Google aims at loading their websites at half a second, which is crazy. And the threshold for loading an e-commerce website is around 2 seconds. Like in 2 seconds, user should be able to interact with the web page. That's how quick downloading of the content should happen and parsing should happen. So what you have really control over is the downloading part and not the parsing and the rendering part, because that's taken care by the browser. So as a web developer, you don't really have control over there. But what you have control over is what is the bundle size that the browser has to download so as to render the web page as fast as possible. And that's where minification kind of helps. Now, minification is not the silver bullet for optimizing your page load times, but it is one part of it. What advantage minification really gives is it reduces the bundle size of your JS. For example, this spf.js might be 5 or 10 KB big. It might not seem that big, but when you think it in terms of a document size, it's really huge. What minification really does is really reduces that size. So maybe it makes it half. That's what I've seen. So one code base that I had worked on before minification, it would be around around 16, I think it was around 16 MB, which is huge size. But when we minified it, it came down to 7 MB, which is again huge, but still it is a huge improvement over 16 megabytes. So that is the first real application, and why you should really minify your code is to optimize your load times. Because what it really does, it basically reduces your bundle size. If you're working with front-end frameworks like React or Vue, you really don't have to care about minification because that is already done for you by bundlers like Webpack. The second biggest advantage of using minification is basically to discourage people going through your source code. Now, it doesn't make it impossible for people to see what you have written, but it really discourages to go through minified code. I think that's gonna be it for this video. I hope this video kind of made sense, and thank you guys for joining. And if you are new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.